this was some of the hardest um, hours of NASCAR I've ever had to watch. Um, it it was painful to sit through, not knowing anything, and it'll any moment like that will always be difficult. Um, this is supposed to be the 2020 Daytona 500 review. It's supposed to be the NASCAR is saved weekend review, the best speed week since 2014 review. Instead, it's one of the worst speed weeks in recent memory, if not in terms of all speed weeks, one of the worst 500s in recent memory, not because of the racing product, but more because a driver has just been seriously injured. Um, so, hype was building for the 2020 Daytona 500. We had two very good duels, an amazing truck race, and an Xfinity race which was eons better than the one last year. It was all coming together to come on to Sunday and see one of the best Daytona 500s of the Gen 6 era, if not the best Daytona 500 of the Gen 6 era. And ratings were supposed to be going up, and there's supposed to be so much good in the world of NASCAR. It was supposed to be a great start to what should be a great season of competition. Instead, everything went against NASCAR. 2020 is supposed to start out on the right foot. There was so much coming into this Daytona 500. First time the duel to matter in quite some time. You had good racing in the duels. You had two great races with the other series, right? You have this amazing super speedway package, which produces huge runs and tons of passing, and it produced a photo finish the last time it was used. You have these three rookies that were the Xfinity Big Three. They're now up into the Cup Series at the same time. They're going to battle for the rookie battle the same year. They're going to be battling for Rookie of the Year. You have some big storylines coming into this race. You know, the United States president is going to be at the racetrack. He's going to lead the field around for a pace lap. It was supposed to be NASCAR's biggest day in a long, long time. What happened on Sunday? It rained. It delayed the start of the race. We got 20 laps in, and they got pushed to Monday. 4 p.m. on a Monday. Very weird time. 4 p.m. Monday comes around. Stage 1, from what I've heard, was alright. I heard Stage 2 was pretty dull, and I got home in time to see the Wreckfest at the end of Stage 3. And let me tell you, some of the laps, that last lap was horrible. Um, I can't really describe how I feel about it right about now, but I don't know if I can put into words. I can't really remember. I'm gonna try and remember as much as I can. This is gonna kind of be a kind of review of what it was like last night. Um, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, where have you been? Um, Literally, the crash has been shown everywhere. Every news outlet has shown it. Every news show has shown it. Every NASCAR show has shown it. So uh, that's why I'm not gonna show it, and I don't want to show it because every time I watch it, it makes me cringe. So there has to be someone out there where every time they see it, they want to break down in tears or something because it is horrible. It is probably the worst crash I have seen in NASCAR. It was terrible. And I've only started watching since 2011, but I've gone back and watched the worst of the worst crashes. This is up there for worst crash of all time in NASCAR. So we had a lot of yellows late in the race. Started off by a big one, triggered when Joey Logano pushed Eric Almirola into Brad Keselowski, spinning the two around in front of the field. Red flag came out. Kyle Busch blew up. We had a restart. We had another crash. We had a restart. We had a crash before they even made it to the start finish line. We had a restart. We had the white flag. We had a pass for the lead. We had a photo finish. And we had a horrible crash back behind. So I worked yesterday, got home in time to see the final 30 laps or so. Big one hit. I was home right before that. Um, I'm gonna just skip ahead to the final lap. So amped up restart. It's gonna be green white checker. This is gonna be for the win of the Daytona 500. And there are a lot of cool faces at the front. Ryan Newman for Roush Racing looking to win his second Daytona 500. Denny Hamlin looking to win his second straight and his third, which would tie him with Jeff Gordon. Not many drivers have won that many Daytona 500s. Ryan Blaney's up there, looking to prove with a new crew chief that he belongs in the Cup Series, looking for a second straight Super Speedway victory. Kevin Harvick's up there. Brendan Gaughan is in the lead draft. Corey LaJoie is inside the top 10. David Reagan, in what should have been his final start. John Hunter Nemechek in a rookie battle with Brendan Poole are both inside the top 10. This was going to be an amazing restart and what should have been an even better finish. Denny Hamlin led at the white flag. Chase Elliott crashed behind, but it was such a small crash, just a skin to the wall, that NASCAR had no other choice but to keep it green. Let them race out to the checkered flag. No one was going to be in the way. No one was going to be hurt. Chase Elliott drove away. Down the backstretch, Ryan Newman backed up to Ryan Blaney and got the push by Denny Hamlin. Blaney was now to second. Newman was leading the race, looking for his second Daytona 500 triumph for Roush Fenway Racing, trying to get the six back in victory lane. Ryan Blaney saw the six get out front and figured he had a shot to win. He backed up to the back, or he backed up right into the front bumper of the 11 car. Hamlin gave him the push. Blaney looked high. Newman blocked it. Blaney looked low. Newman blocked it. In a way of 2019 Talladega, Newman learned from his mistakes and had blocked Blaney off and was going to win the Great American Race. Ryan Blaney at this point had set in his mind, I can't win. My momentum has been shut down. I'm going to push a blue oval to victory lane. Well, the push didn't work. The push did not line up, and Ryan Newman was sent barreling into the outside wall, and on impact was flipped over into the air, spun around in the air, came back down on his lid, driver's side, facing the oncoming path. And Corey LaJoie, going 200 miles an hour plus, had nowhere to go but into the driver's side door of Ryan Newman, sending him further into the air, higher into the air, across the start-finish line, back down to his roof again, and a slide on the driver's side door, all the way to the exit of the tri-oval, where he finally came to rest. It was a disastrous crash. I didn't know who won at the time. I figured Hamlin had it won. They were side by side. I didn't know if it was Hamlin or Blaney. In fact, I didn't care at that moment. I saw Ryan Newman flip. I saw him get hit. I didn't know how he got hit. I just knew he got hit again. I didn't know if he got hit in the roof, if he got hit in the door, what door it was. I didn't know if he was maybe right side up when he got hit. All I know was that he got hit and got projected back into the air again. As I stood watching the TV with my hands on my head, I realized this wasn't good. Fluid was leaking from the car, ready to ignite a fire. Luckily, safety crews got there, put the fire out. The AMR medical team got there and tried to get Newman out. And for the longest time, I was waiting for Mike Joy to say something. To say something on air. To say he's awake and alert, or NASCAR just told us he is alright. He has spoken over the radio. That word never came. That communication never came, which frightened even more. Of the past major crashes that we've had, every single one, we've almost had an immediate response, which has showed the driver was alright. Think back to Kyle Larson, his nationwide crash in 2013. He immediately climbed out of that race car. Think to Kyle Busch's scary Daytona crash, in which he broke his legs. He climbed out of the car immediately, showing us that he was, while hurt, alright. He was on the ground talking to the medical crew, so he was alright. 2015 Austin Dillon crash. Hit the catch fence really hard. We didn't know how hard at first. All we saw was just a bunch of smoke and fluid go flying. We saw the car, we saw the crews go out there, and immediately the crews put a thumbs up, showing that Austin Dillon was alright. You look back at Eric Almirola's 2017 Kansas crash. Maybe we didn't know he was alright at first, But Mike Joy did say he talked over to his crew over the radio. Think back to Eric McClure's 2012 crash. It was a hard impact. They had to cut the roof off. We didn't know if he was alright. His wheel nut didn't go down. But NASCAR told ESPN McClure talked over the radio. He is okay. We didn't get any communication like that at all, which only added to the severity of the impact and only added to the speculation of how bad it could have been. 2001 Daytona 500 kept popping up into my mind. The documentaries like The Day, watching that, remembering how bad it was, remembering the mood like that, like it was after the checkered flag there, it felt almost the same thing. No one was really worried about the victory. There was a lot more attention being paid to what happened back behind the battle for the win, the second closest Daytona 500 finish in history. As Fox cut off the air, no news was made about how Ryan Newman was. There were no updates. There were no updates to be had. All I know is that Mike Joy had that same kind of air about him as was 2011's air, or 2001's air. Jeff Gordon looked like he was fighting back tears, which only scared me further. And then a tweet sent out about black screens being put up around the car made me want to burst into tears. Because black screens and race cars don't mix well. They put those up so that people can't see what's going on, so that people can't get a glimpse of how bad it actually is. But that was probably just put up in an effort to make sure no photographers or media people took pictures of the extraction of Ryan Newman. Those black screens add to the speculation, and rightfully so. I feared for the worst at that moment. But there was a glimmer of hope, and that glimmer of hope was a 6-second video of an ambulance transporting Ryan Newman down the front stretch. The ambulance was speedy. The ambulance was not going slow. When death is suspected, or broken back is suspected, an ambulance is going to go at walking pace. The reason for that being if it is a suspected death, they can try and bring the person back in the back of the ambulance. If they're going slow enough, they're not going to get jostled around. So they can try and give CPR and whatnot. Do stuff like that, Do whatever they need to do. It's basically a mini hospital in there. So when I saw the ambulance was at least going at a moderate speed, not terribly fast, because they don't have to go terribly fast. The hospital is right outside the racetrack. So when I saw that video, it brought some optimism into me, I'm not going to lie. The ambulance is at least going faster than walking pace. So if what I knew about that scenario was correct, this should mean Ryan Newman is not dead. And it did. But there were still hours of waiting. The crash happened around 7:50 Eastern. We didn't get word until like 2 hours after then. It was a long wait. Really, really long wait. I didn't know what to think of it. Just waiting. No news. No news. Was no news good? Was no news horrible? No news was good. Ryan Newman is okay. And today we had some of the best news that he is awake, alert, and conversing with medical staff and his family, which is the best news you could ever hear from something like this. After how vicious of a crash it was, it makes me flinch and grimace every time I see it. So, Ryan Newman, I'm glad you're okay. I really don't know what else to say. I mean, I just kind of rambled on at this point. This is more or less just me getting everything off my chest with how everything's been, you know. It was so close to being the video that I hoped never would be made. And luckily, I still don't have to make that video and hopefully never will have to make that video. Something about how safe these race cars are have definitely desensitized us as race fans. We go and we look at a hard crash now and we go, he should be fine. That was nothing. We go and we look at a flip and we go, wow, that was crazy, but he should be fine. It's not until something like this happens when we really realize, even though the sport is ton safe and almost probably as safe as it could be at this moment, it's still fucking dangerous. There's nothing safe about going 200 miles an hour in a pack with someone on your back bumper with bumpers that don't align. It is not safe at all. And it sucks that we need something like this to re-understand that concept that the sport's not safe at all. It's as safe as it can be. That's still not safe. It's still dangerous to go out there and do this. And we saw that. One freak accident, this shouldn't have happened. What are the odds that he would get spun like that? And what are the odds they hit the wall in that angle to where it would flip the car? What are the odds that he landed driver's side first and not passenger side first? What are the odds that Corey LaJoie was in that lane when it happened? I want to go on a little bit more and talk about people I feel bad for in this scenario. Other drivers I feel bad for in this scenario. First and foremost, Corey LaJoie, I feel gutted for because he's the one that hit Newman and made it as bad as it was. Obviously, he had nothing to do. I mean, he couldn't do anything else. He was going 200 miles an hour. There's no reaction time whatsoever in the world. No one has that reaction time to be able to save this from happening. I feel bad for Corey because while he should know it's not his fault, and maybe he does know it's not his fault, there's still always that what if statement. There's still always that what if kind of that eats you up. Even though hey, I couldn't do anything, but what if I did? What if this? What if that? What if this happened? What if I was here? What if I was there? And while it's pretty stupid, it sounds stupid to do that. When you're in a scenario like that, you have that. And I hope Corey's not with something like that because it wasn't his fault. I feel also terrible and gutted for Ryan Blaney, who seemed absolutely deflated in his post-race interview. Especially considering he was the one that got into the back of Newman once again. He tried to push him to victory. There was nothing Ryan Blaney could do. He just bumped him, and the bumpers didn't line up, and it hooked Newman. There was nothing Blaney could do. And finally, I feel terrible for Denny Hamlin as well. Denny Hamlin had no idea what had happened. He was in a side-by-side deadlock run to the checkered flag with Ryan Blaney. He beat him by about 100th of a second, right? He was not focusing on the mirror. He was focusing at that moment on Ryan Blaney, looking forward, looking sideways, trying to do anything he could to get an advantage on Ryan Blaney to beat him to the start-finish line. It wasn't like back in 2015 when Dale Jr. was clear of the pack and all he had to do was focus on which lane to block. And he was looking in his mirror to make sure he was blocking the right lane when he saw the crash happen and he saw a car go flying into the catch fence. This was nothing like that at all. Denny Hamlin was not looking back at all. He was looking forward or sideways to see how he could beat Ryan Blaney. He knew there was something that happened on the front stretch. He knew, hey, just give the medical people room. He didn't know how severe the situation was, so he went and he did and celebrated. He did his burnouts. It wasn't until he got to Victory Lane when he saw probably the expressions of NASCAR executives that were in Victory Lane that he realized something's wrong. And he apologized. Everyone that celebrated apologized. And they don't have to. They didn't know. Just communication wasn't that fast. No one knew at the time. And I guess to end the video out, I want to say a bunch of thank yous. Thank you, NASCAR, for making the sport as safe as it can be, for all the safety advancements. If Ryan Newman could go and survive that hit and be breathing at the end of it, I don't know what could happen besides going roof first in the catch fence that could be, life ending. After seeing Ryan Newman do that, being hit like that, and hearing that he is alive and awake at the hospital right now, it just doesn't seem real. None of this seems real. It seems like some messed up nightmare that everyone's had to go through. So thank you, NASCAR, for making these cars as safe as they can be. I mean, there's so much. Even though they haven't always been, proactive on safety, they have made so many good changes. Thank you to the drivers that are maybe the most set in stone on safety. One of them being Ryan Newman. He has always been one of the ones that says we need to keep these cars from getting airborne and crashing like this. Kyle Busch for getting safety barriers everywhere. Jeff Gordon for the same thing. Jeff Burton was always in safety talks. Dale Jarrett. So those drivers, they deserve a big round of applause as well. Thank you to the track safety crew, the track crew, who got that car flipped over so that they could extract Ryan Newman out of it. And speaking of extraction, thank you to the AMR medical team for getting Ryan Newman out and not injuring him any further, getting him out in a timely manner while still making sure that he was alright. Thank you to the NASCAR media for not speculating on anything. It was quiet. It was absolutely quiet on Twitter. No news at all. The only things I saw on Twitter were just media members saying, we'll say something when we hear something official. They waited until Steve O'Donnell made his press conference to put out tweets about Ryan Newman's condition. And I'm so thankful for that. Because there's been just this year, this past month, with basketball, NBA, and all the stuff that was rumored there. I'm glad the NASCAR media didn't go down that same path of just trying to get clicks. I'm glad they waited like one big happy family. Because, you know, reporting Ryan Newman's fine before we know he's fine, that's bad. Reporting Ryan Newman isn't alright before we know, that's not right. I'm glad they waited. Props to all of them. They did their jobs the right way. It wasn't to get views, to get clicks. It was to report the true story. And they reported the true story. And I thank every single NASCAR media member for that. So, that's it. Hopefully Vegas is a return to normal. Um, I would go into further detail, but that's not about the package and stuff and maybe how it could be changed and why the crash happened, but that's not the point right now. The point is to pray for Ryan Newman and pray for a speedy recovery and a full recovery. Maybe not even speedy, just for a full recovery. Because the last time I was this scared during a race was Robert Wickens' Pocono when he had his horrible crash. And when that happened, I I wasn't even watching it. I was out to lunch with my parents when I saw on my Discord people freaking out, and I went to a live stream on the NBC app, and I saw what happened, and I went, "Uh-oh, this isn't good. This is terrible. Like this is bad." I remember watching it and kept refreshing Twitter for updates. Got home and there was still no update. Put on the TV and waited for an update. Waited for an update. They finally got an update. It was just like today. Those two incidents have been some of the worst as of late in terms of, stuff. But I would say this one's even worse because I feel like we knew Robert was alive and alert earlier than we did Ryan. For Ryan, there was 2 hours where we actually didn't know if he was alive or not. We just knew that he had been transported to the hospital. We didn't know if he was severely injured. We didn't know if it was just a little thing. We didn't know if it was the worst possible outcome. So I think that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching if you got through all this. Rocket strong. Ryan Newman, get better. Full recovery. That's it. Thanks everyone. I'll see you guys for the next video.